Hey there, and welcome to the A.D.K Rock and Metal channel. I, of course, am Dave. There's no Kirk or Andy with me today. They're off doing other interviews on the channel. But joining me today, I have Massimo from the wonderful 1 Minute Silence and the new band Theftuous. Hi, Massey. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me on the channel. It's great because obviously I wanted to really talk about a lot about 1 Minute Silence because it's a band I grew up with, even though I was in my 20s. So, but that is one of the most influential times of your musical life. So that's when you actually have your own money to spend on albums.
Right.
Well,
I was 19 when I joined 1 Minute Silence, so I agree with you.
You were, and do you know what? We met around the time that you joined 1 Minute Silence.
All right.
This is where you're going to be racking your brain going, when was this then?
Yes.
I haven't told you this off camera, so I thought I'd wait until we were on camera so I could sit there. So before you joined 1 Minute Silence, I was playing in a band, and I'm going to put it out there, we were crap. We were just awful. But we were playing covers and stuff like this, and we had put in the Loot newspaper.
Yes, God, I remember that.
Music magazines. That we were looking for a guitarist for the band. We were rehearsing in a place in North Acton, and I think Mark was the other guitarist in the band, and he said, "Oh yeah, we've got this guy who's come down. He's going to try out for the role of guitarist." And I was like, "Cool," and I'm playing drums, and it was you, and you'd come, and we were like, "Oh, where's his gear?" And he's like, "It's in the car." But what he said is, he just said he was going to hang outside and for us to play so you could get an idea of what we were doing. And so we played, and I just remember afterwards, Mark went outside and you were like, "Yeah, you're not for me. It's fine. Don't worry."
Dude, I
just thought that's fair
sweat.
play. That is, you knew what you were after. And to be honest, I wouldn't have joined our band back then, to be quite honest.
I should have come into the room though. I feel like that was a bit pretentious, but maybe I was just trying to protect my hearing.
I just think you were like, yeah, because we were doing covers and they were rough, and it was just, we were not at the level where you were. You had all your gear, you were all set, and I think it was about a year later you were in 1 Minute Silence,
right?
And that's when we were like, yeah, he made the right call. Let's put it that way.
Cool. I feel uncomfortable about that story, but it's a good story.
It is a good story. I love the fact that you were like, let me just check this band out, because the thing is, because there was no way for you to like send round tracks back in the days. You had to literally just turn up, and it makes sense. Why would you unpack all your gear, your amps, your pedals, your rack effects units, and all that sort of stuff, and then you're like, these band. I mean, we were bad,
right?
So you made the right call, mate. But yeah, it's funny how that was, and and you've actually popped up a couple of other times in my life at other points with friends of mine,
right?
That you've bumped into. So I've had friends of mine going, "Oh, I'm just hanging out with this cool guy, Massey," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know Massey. I remember Massey."
It's actually a small world, isn't it? Like,
it's an incredibly small world, mate.
Yes.
I should get to some questions, really. That's what you're here for. Now that I've made you uncomfortable, let's do some questions. Right, so you joined 1 Minute Silence, but after they'd already brought out their first album. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about 1 Minute Silence, but this was obviously after you'd already joined them. But do you know where the name 1 Minute Silence came from, or why the band chose to call themselves this?
It used to be Near Death Experience, right? And there was another band called that. Yeah. So for legal reasons, they just had to change it. And I'm pretty sure, it wasn't a lot of thought. Like, I think, Yap was always really clever with spinning titles around, or like buy now, save later, or
Yeah.
And I think 1 Minute Silence is also something that's said a lot. So it might have been just like free publicity and free press when someone else says it, But
comes up in the search
besides that, and probably like trying to keep it as close to like the near death experience. 1 Minute Silence, I guess that's the closest you could get to it.
Because in your time with the band, did you have any issues with people feeling that was a disrespectful band name? Because obviously 1 Minute Silence has been used as a sign of respect when you do things like Remembrance Sundays, or whenever there's been some sort of thing going on. Now the band has obviously been quite a political band with a lot of its sort of song titles and lyric choices. So did you ever have any points where people came up and went, you shouldn't be using that band name, it's disrespectful, or anything like that?
No, I think 20 years ago people were like vomiting and setting each other on fire and peeing on each other, and now if you say anything, it's like, I can imagine now everyone would be upset, but back then people were hard.
we were a bit tougher. There weren't that many snowflake people out there at the time. Yeah, you can't say anything. Trust me, the amount of times I get people up in uproar about saying the simplest thing on this channel, I'm like, oh come on, just get a life, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I think if anyone takes a band name too seriously, it's like, I don't know. That's they have a lot of time on their hands,
People just like to troll for the sake about it.
Yeah.
So, how did you come about joining 1 Minute Silence?
So it's a small world, as we said. So 1 Minute Silence. So Glenn and Yap used to always go to the rock clubs. Are you based in London?
At the time, we're North London now, but at the time, I was very much Camden and the Crowbar and all the London metal places, pubs that you'd go out to every weekend. Start off in the World's End, and then you start moving your way around all the different places, and until the early hours of the morning. Big Red, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and Discipline, Borderline, rock scene.
Borderline. Yeah.
So I was just a kid in that scene, getting influenced by everyone else, trying to start a band, and then 1 Minute Silence just got signed. I think the first time I saw them play was in New Cross, the same day Princess Diana died. I remember just going to the gig, and it was like, oh wow, that's happened. And then I think I saw them a couple of times after that. My band were trying to get up and running, and then the band I was in two bands. One band was called Lab Rat, which I started with a guy called Nathan. That ended badly.
It feels like there's a whole story there somewhere.
There is. I just don't know whether, I don't need to go into it. But and then I started a band called Toy, and we were pretty good. It was nice crossover, and so I started speaking to Yap and Glenn in the clubs, because they weren't like unapproachable or anything. It was just everyone was just doing their thing. So I had they were in London at the time, halfway through a tour, and do you remember when Chris left, they actually got a guy called Key in before me. He was in the band for about a week. And I heard, but I actually heard it on the radio on XFM. What was the big rock show all the time? Anyway,
Total Rock was a big
Total Rock. Yeah, and basically 1 Minute Silence got a new guitarist, and I remember just going like, "Fuck!" So jealous. I was like, "Damn." So I saw Yap and Glenn in the club, and I was like, "Man, you guys should have asked me to join the band." And they were like, "Man, we didn't even know you played." And I was like, "Ah." And I was like, "Come and check out my band. We're playing next week." So they were in town. So they came to see Toy. And this was a Sunday night. No, excuse me. This was a Friday. They came to see the band. I remember playing the demo to Yap in the car, and I remember his face kind of like changing a bit, like he told me afterwards what the face was, but at the time I was like, something's just happened here and I don't know what. We played the show, Yap and Glenn watched it, and then Sunday night, Saturday, the next day, and I kid you not, this is the truth, the next day, Toy broke up because the drummer and the guitarist hated each other. So the band divided into two. I went with the drummer and the rest of the band went off. And then so it was just me and the drummer left. And then Sunday I get a phone call from Yap, and he's pick up the phone, and he's like a bit frantic on the phone, and he's like, "Hey Mass, how's it going?" And I was like, I was also a bit starstruck because I was 19 and they were like a big band, kicking it in the scene. And I remember at the gig, when he came to see my gig, I was like, "Oh man, you should have asked me to play." And he was like, "Oh, we didn't know you could play." And I was like, "Well, look, can I come and do a song with you guys when you play London?" And I was being so cheeky and just putting myself out there. So when he called me, I was thinking like, "Oh my God, he's going to ask me to do a song. Like they're going to ask me to play a song with him." And he was like, "Hey Mass, how's it going? Yeah, I loved your gig, man. I really love you." It's like, "Can you play any of the 1 Minute Silence songs?" And I was like, "Oh, they're going to get me to play South Central or something." He was like, and I was like, yeah, I can play. He's like, you sure? Like, how many songs can you play? I was like, yeah, I can play all of them. Like, I couldn't, and he was like, "Hey man, look, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, do you want to join 1 Minute Silence?" And I just remember like time just like it just froze like, and I was like sitting in my bedroom at my mom's house. I had a poster of 1 Minute Silence on the wall, and it was like, everything just slowed down because I was like, is this really happening? For a 19-year-old, And he went, and I was like, and the first thing I said to him was like, "I've got to talk to my drummer." Like I couldn't even say yes. I was like, I just let me call my drummer. He's like, "Oh yeah, cool. I respect that. Cool. Call me back in 5 minutes." Called the drummer, and I was like, "Hey man, 1 Minute Silence just asked me to join." And he's like, just burst out laughing. He's like, "Yeah, all right. And Rage Against the Machine have asked me to join." And I'm like, "Mate, I'm serious." And I'm like, and he's like, and he laughed again, and it was like, and then he's like, "You serious?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh fuck." And then he was like, kind of, felt the reality of it, and he was like, and respect him because he was like, "You got to do it, man. You have to do it." And that was a kind of a sad feeling as well, And I called Yap back, and I was like, "Yeah, like Jesus, of course." And he's like, "Look, no pressure, but we're playing Dynamo Festival on Friday. Metallica is there. We've got to leave on Thursday, so we're going to rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you can do it, we can do it. If not, it doesn't matter if we have to cancel the gig."
I love the way he says no pressure.
No pressure. And I couldn't sleep. I was like, and my mum came into the room after the phone call, and my brother lives in Ireland, and she just, she saw the shock on my face, and she thought something happened to my brother, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Just been asked to join 1 Minute Silence." And mate, my life changed. My life really did change from that moment in so many ways. It's timing, it's luck. It's I also put the time into work, and I sacrificed a lot, and I put the hard work in, but it was also serendipity, So yeah, went into the rehearsal on Monday. Just looked at Eddie, looked at Glenn, kicked into South Central, and just been like so close to Eddie's drum kit, and it was just, and Eddie was like showing off, hitting the snare so fucking hard. It's like, I just remember just looking at, like, standing right in front of the drum kit, like, you just, this energy coming off Eddie. Did a few rehearsals. I went back to Glenn and Eddie's house every night after rehearsals. Now my fingers were bleeding. And then Wednesday's rehearsal, looked at Glenn to see, like, Glenn was kind of like the MD, to see, like, are we ready? And Glenn just gave him the thumbs up, and then Yap looked at me, and he was like, just like, quite proud, and he was like, "We're doing the gig, man." And I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm shitting myself," like,
So that was your first gig, was basically Dynamo with the band?
Dynamo, yeah.
Well, that's a baptism, isn't it, really?
Well, I only played 10 shows in all my life. That was probably like the 10th show, and there was like more security than any crowd I ever played to. And I was just, I remember being, it was an uncomfortable gig. I was uncomfortable. you know.
Yeah.
And Glenn was like doing all these somersaults and backflips, and he gave me a kick in the backside, like a really hard kick, and I thought it was because I played a wrong note or something. And I remember like even getting more fucking upset, like, and he was just like kicking me out of like, yeah,
trying to energize you.
Yeah, and no, it was great. It was good. It was good. I came off stage though, and Yap was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing." I was a bit hard on myself, and he was like, "What's wrong?" And he was panicking. He was like, he didn't want me to leave the band. He thought I was going to leave, and I was like, "No, I played too many wrong notes." And he was like, "Ah, dude, come on, it's your first gig." And I was like, "And Glenn kicked me," and he was like.
It's interesting because 1 Minute Silence, of the bands that came out around that sort of 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s metal scene, that's the British scene, the 1 Minute Silence crew was definitely by far, in my head, the most visceral, aggressive of the bands. There seemed like this intensity from you guys. The other bands that were around the time that I kind of remember seeing were bands like Polkus, Pitch Shifter, Vacant Stare, Kill to This, all bands I went and saw, and I was happy to get in the mosh pit and I could jump around a bit like a bit of a loon and didn't fear for my safety. With 1 Minute Silence, there was an element of my safety that I feared for. Because even on stage, there was the aggression from the stage, and the crowd just always were just nutcases, in my opinion. Was that something that you guys were just? I don't know. Was this something you guys cultivated, this crowd? Because even the people I've spoken to, I was interviewing Zach Tell from Clawfinger, and he was talking about you guys came out on tour with them, and again loved you guys, and was talking about the crowds and how you were such a specific live band. You were always known as a great live band for the intensity. Was this something you guys were really cultivated?
I think we all just fed off each other. I mean, the guys were, you know, so even that Clawfinger tour, I wasn't in the band then. That was available in all colors. You know, I think Yap is hectic. You know, he's very unique, hectic individual. And Glenn was an absolute machine, like, you know, so much energy, like, you know, and Eddie, and in a way they were all almost like autistic in their own right, like, you know, but it was just, I don't know, I think, you know, we all just loved heavy music, you know, we believed in it, we loved it, it was passion, it was just, you know, when we played, it was like, it didn't matter if there was 2 people there or 10,000 people there, like where it was coming from, the source of the band was the energy, and then we fed off each other, you know, and then we feed off the crowd and the crowd feed off us, and you know, but saying that in terms of, you know, because we had the pit crew, you know, like, did you remember the pit crew where like people would come and police the mosh pit, you know, and they make sure everyone was okay, and they even got t-shirts made up called the pit crew, and because it did get out, I mean, it was crazy, so it was like, okay, we need to kind of also control this a bit, because it's getting, you know, we can't just all start punching each other. It can't just be a big fight, can it? Like, it's know, it's all love and respect, but how crazy can you get before, you know, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye or a head.
Well, this is the thing I remember talking about, because we recently did, we talked about it on the channel. We were reviewing the video for I Wear My Skin, and I sort of said that we were talking about the bands of the time in the British new metal scene, because the bands that came out of the UK that were put in with the new metal, they don't sound anything like American new metal. Doesn't sound like Deftones, doesn't sound like Korn, Linkin Park. And I think even at the press at the time, with the magazines like Kerrang and Metal Hammer, kind of either referred to it as British new metal or 2000s metal. It was never just referred to as the new metal sound. But I was said that 1 Minute Silence was more hardcore than it was ever new metal. There was elements of new metal, but I would have definitely put you guys more in the hardcore element, whereas something like Kill to This, I would definitely go down the more of a new metal route. There was more of those elements. Where, I mean, would that be a fair assumption with that kind of vibe? You're more of a hardcore band? Because you definitely felt that with the crowd. The crowd were definitely more of a hardcore fan base.
So, my influence as a guitarist, like, I was heavily influenced by new metal. But Glenn came before me. Like, he's like, you know, nearly 10 years older than me. So he was more Iron Maiden and Pantera, just kind of, he was playing the bass really well before nu metal kicked in. Plus he's got like, the Latino or like Spanish vibe where like his rhythms they're not a nu metal rhythm. Like if you hear all these bass lines, they're all swinging and dancing, and so it's kind of hard to do the nu metal riffs as such. But we kind of, you can hear the difference between Available and By Now in the guitar change. That maybe that got a bit more nu metal. But I don't know. I don't think we were trying to do anything. It was just whatever gives us goosebumps, we'll do it, and that's how we write. And sometimes that can be bad because you might be going through a phase of something really bad is giving you goosebumps, and then you're like, I don't care, it's giving me goosebumps, and it's like, like the reason I'm saying this is because now, since I've got into like production and learning how to produce, there's a fine line to walk of being true to what you love and goosebumps and just, and also understanding like the destination and the market and being smart enough to be like, that can fit over here for another project. Like, what is this project?
Yeah.
You can do what you want, of course you can, but at the same time, I don't know, does it serve you? Does it serve the band? Does it serve the fans? Do you get what I'm saying? It's tricky. But yeah, I don't know. We were just trying to write, and we'd always try and write something that would activate a mosh pit.
We certainly did that. I do remember that. Was there any point in the band where there were potentials where the band was going to go right to like the next level of like they did with bands like Disturbed, where they suddenly skyrocketed and they were getting played on heavy rotation, or anything like that, where there was things like that was potentially going to happen for the band?
Absolutely. Yeah, we felt it. We felt the shift. We got to the Astoria in London twice, sold out twice, touts outside buying tickets for 150. I think Buy Now Save Later was, it was a great album, and it definitely suited all that, that vibe. I don't know what happens. It's a game. There's so many factors, people, there is an industry, there's people help each other out. There is networking, we might have said something, it didn't help us that we got banned from all the UK festivals because of the garage getting torn to bits, So I don't know. It did feel like we were about to break, and we could. It was, but it just never ticked over. And it was, I don't know. Sometimes I think if we were an American band, would we have been seen differently? Like, we would have been seen more as like the rock star thing might have come through, but at home we're just mates with everyone, so it's like, it's just lads down the road. But I don't know why it never did. Sometimes I feel like some of the songs could have and should have, but there's many reasons and many factors. I
mean, could it be along the lines of around 2001, 2002 we had effectively what was the nu metal crash, where nu metal suddenly it went from being a popular genre to basically everyone, just anything that was nu metal was so out of favor. It would all be moved to metalcore. It was Killswitch Engage. It was these bands that were now the focal point, because we had bands like Crazy Town and dropping songs like Butterfly, which basically killed nu metal dead in an instant. That song.
Well, they supported us at the LA2. And
did they?
Yeah, and it was, so yeah, that's funny. Sorry,
but that you can clearly see there was a turning point around 2001, 2002, which is I would call it the third wave of nu metal bands that came out. Because you had the ones that were out the early 90s, 93, 94 of the Corns, then you had the 96s, 98s of Slipknot, and then you had the turn of the century ones, and it was the turn of the century ones that absolutely killed the nu metal scene, and suddenly no one in the record industry or the press wanted to touch nu metal with a barge pole.
Right.
Now, would that have been a potential, because I'm not sure when you were doing the LA or playing the Astoria, if that was around the early 2000s, 2001 period, because that would have
Yeah.
probably tied in with when the crash happened.
Well, that's probably what happened. I also think it's because of the bad choice of clothes we were wearing.
I think everyone had the bad choice of clothes back then.
But I think, I think with the mid nu metal era, it was about the image,
Yeah.
It got a bit more image orientated, and we were kind of floating in the middle of nowhere with that, didn't really have an image, half normal, half a bit of an image, and I think that was a part of the trend was, oh wow, look at all these new music. Popular music isn't just about the music, it's about the image, whether it's tattoos or glasses or whatever, but that it is a fashion. There's a fashion statement to it too, and I feel like it wasn't our strong point.
Because I was going to say that the band was only really together for 8 years, which is a very short period of time if you look at a gestation period of a band from when its launches, and you achieve so much in that 8 years. So a lot of bands will go on for a little bit longer before they kind of decide to take a break or to leave or split up, or etc. So what was the kind of the disbanding point of 2003? How did that all come about? Was it just one person went, I need to go off and go on my own? And how did it all feel, especially for you, obviously coming in at 19 when you joined, to have that conversation of we're going off and doing our own separate things? What was happening there?
Mate, I was heartbroken. It was definitely, I felt like I was just getting good. I was like just feeling myself on stage, like just really playing like people were coming up to me like saying, dude, you look like you were born with the guitar, and I could feel it. I was like, I didn't even, it was just happening. But a lot happened. Again, there was strong characters in the band. The band got really political. Like it became more about politics and less about music. We'd spend time in the rehearsal room just talking, and sometimes I'd sit there with my guitar, and it was all fascinating and interesting stuff, but there's a time and a place, and we're in the rehearsal room and like we haven't even played a note. We're just talking about politics and life, and it's like it just becomes, it just got really heavy, and I think like the weight of the world was on our shoulders, like I think a lot of it was unnecessary to worry so much about everything, and I think the way the band split up, no hard feelings to anyone. It could have been dealt with more respectfully for everyone involved, but at the same time, personally, in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that happened for me, because I didn't like when I look back now at who I was and how I used to think, and it wasn't healthy. I wasn't in a healthy mindset.
Right.
It like 1 Minute Silence almost became cultic. It was like it became about trying to change the world and change people, and it was everything became an argument with someone, and what's right and what's wrong, and you're wrong and we're right, and and it was like, and it was quite unpalatable, and also there was probably smoking a lot of weed, doing other drugs, and being just just lost perspective, and just letting it, I don't know. I don't know if you want to know exactly what happened in the sense of how, like, day to day, how it broke up. But it's, I'm glad it happened now, because I feel like it, sometimes I have wondered, like, if the band got really big, if we crossed over into the bigger realm, who would I be today, and I think it's been healthy leaving the band scenario and kind of going into the real world, like, normal day-to-day life, I worked in a music college, and just a transition from how you think you can behave when you're in a rock band, because you get away with it. And we weren't even that big. Like, imagine, if you really wanted to be like a diva or a rock star, and how your life and how everyone around you accommodates that, because you're gonna get away with it, So looking back, after the whole, who I am today compared to where I was, I feel like I wouldn't have become who I am today if I didn't lose OMS.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, do you still keep in touch with any of the guys from the band?
Absolutely, we're all still really close. I've got Yap to guest on the Theftuous stuff. Just talking to Glenn, we keep messing around. We keep talking about, let's do another song. Eddie doesn't play drums anymore, unfortunately. But I speak to him, see him. We're all, I'm close with all of them.
And probably if you had stayed together for much longer, you probably wouldn't be, because you see that with bands like Rage Against the Machine, who were very political. They hardly speak to each other a lot because they don't always agree, and they probably stuck around a little bit too long in a lot of cases. So I think probably you're right in the sense that, you probably made the right call at the right time for the band. But I do have a question then, which you probably have answered in the sense partly there, which is obviously new metal has had a huge resurgence in the last couple of years. And one of the bands that comes up constantly when we keep talking about bands within our circle of people I know within the industry about what band would you love to see come back and play a few shows? And 1 Minute Silence is one of the bands that they constantly go on about. Even if they just came back and did a couple of festival bills and just played a couple of one-off shows. We've seen it with Pitch Shifter, did one. They're booked in for they did 2000 Trees Festival this year. They came back over and did that. We've got Kill to This are back and around doing some of the occasional shows. So any chance 1 Minute Silence might do a show in the future?
Never say never, but it's
nothing planned.
It's nothing planned. It's
nothing planned.
It feels like a mountain. It's such a like a massive mountain to climb for, I don't know. Maybe when we play a Theftuous show, so let me talk about Theftuous for a second.
Well, I was going to ask about this anyway, because that is the next question, which is the Theftuous project.
So my idea was to try and get like people from that era to be in a band with, because I don't want to start from scratch. It's not like, so we've got like John from Snot on bass. We got the drummer from Osric Tentacles, Marcus from Relative Ash, myself. So I got Yap guesting on a couple of songs. I got Benji to guest. I got CJ from the Wild Hearts to guest on a song. So and another icing on the cake, I got Dom and Roland, legendary drum and bass player, to do a remix for me. So it's all, it's all pedigree. It's all, it's so one of the things we could do, and we have kind of talked about it, is that maybe do a couple of Snot songs, a couple of Relative Ash songs, a couple of OMS songs, maybe, if we pull it off. I don't know, but it would be cool, because it'd be like, if Yap's already doing a couple of songs with us, could we kick into Rise and Shine or something? I don't know. That's more of a possibility at the moment than a full OMS reunion.
Okay. So how did the Theftuous project come about?
I was writing with Yap, and we just couldn't finish a song.
Right.
It was like we had loads of half songs, and then Marcus from Relative Ash, who I met when 1 Minute Silence was touring Tattoo the Earth Festival in 2000. His band were playing and OMS were playing, and we met and we just became good mates. And then obviously we didn't have phones back then, and I lost contact with Marcus, and then he started sending messages on the 1 Minute Silence Facebook group, said I'm trying to get in touch with Mass. So anyway, long story short, Marcus and I started chatting, and we didn't really talk about bands or anything. It was just great to catch up. And then I was just like, man, you still doing music? And he's like, yeah. I've tried a few things, and I was like, oh, so I was like, can I send you a riff? And he's like, yeah. Like, man, I sent him 4 riffs, and in like 3 hours we had 4 songs, and it was like, and it was shocking because it was like, you know, and it's obviously Yap and I can write. We've written 3 albums together, you know.
Yeah.
But just whether it was just the freshness of me, Marcus, the chemistry, the right time, the style of his style and my riffs, you know. And it just blew up. It was like, and we were on the phone, like tears in our eyes, like, mate, because the thing is, like, we can hear it. Like, I can hear a song before it's finished. I can hear the end product just from the riff and the vocal. And I was like, fuck, this is the real deal. Like this, like I've been trying to write music like this for like all my life. Like, and he was like, me too. And I'm like, and it was just like, we were just shaking, and it was like, and we just kept sending riffs, and then we were like, dude, let's get like proper members in the band.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we reached out to we actually I met Pat, the drummer, from BIM, the music college. He was like head of drums there. So I originally actually just asked them to, mate, can you just do a session for me? I'll pay you for a couple of tracks. And then he did the session, and he was like, I love this. And I'm like, do you want to be the drummer? And he's like, I'm in. So then we had this crazy hunt, like a Spinal Tap, where all the drummers were dying, but we were like, had this crazy hunt for all the bass players. Tell you, man, we had some stories about bass players. And we finally got to John, and, you know, I sent John Cannibal, and he was like, fuck, you know. And then and it's history, like, you know. So Theftuous is the 4 of us, like we're you know, we're the core of the band, and then we've got the guests, and I just feel like it's nice to have the guests. You know, it adds to the pedigree of what we're doing. We got Chris Collier from the mixer, who's mixed Korn and stuff to mix it. So the other thing is, we haven't actually met. We haven't actually been in the same room together as a band.
Oh, right, okay.
I've literally send the riffs out. Marcus does the vocals. John does the bass or adds what he wants to add. So it's crazy. Like, you know, we haven't been in the same room as a band yet.
Though, isn't it?
It's crazy.
It is the modern way of writing.
It's frustrating, but at the same time, it's there's a lot of benefits for me as a producer, because I can really paint my idea before I present it to the band. So, you know, but it's great. It's I'm excited. I feel like we put the first single out. Keep pointing at the mountains, but I'm trying to point at that.
Cannibal, yeah.
We put the first single out. We've done no press yet, in the sense of like, we don't have a press agent. You know, we're having talks with a few managers and a few, you know, but we just thought, just put Cannibal out now, because get a bit of a buzz, and then hopefully have, you know, all the right channels ready come the new year. So, but John from Snot, he lives in Colorado, so he's a big deal out there, and so a radio station, they do this thing where they play a snippet of a song, and then they ask everyone to phone up or message, like, it's called cram it or crank it, like, do you want to hear it, or do you want us to bin it? And we just got like 90% of the votes, you know, like just everyone votes, and they got played on the radio already. So it's growing on Spotify and all the other streams. So
it's a great single. I only had a chance to properly listen to it today, and it sounds of 2000s new metal. It's and was that just how it just naturally comes out? Because it sounds like it could have easily been written 20 years ago, comfortably, but with a modern production. And you haven't taken any of the trappings of some of the stuff that's come out in the 2010s, where we hear a lot of the bands that are releasing music now, you can almost date them from 2010 onwards, because they have certain key changes, here's the clean chorus with the second vocalist, there's all the kind of common things that become you can predict them. Whereas listening to this, I was like, yeah, it doesn't sound particularly like a 1 minute silence track, So it doesn't sound like anything you've done with that, but I could have easily guessed that it was a 2000s album song. Was that something you were like, I want to do something from that era, or is this just what comes out of your pores?
All right. I was told not to say this, but the truth is the truth. You can't lie. So this song in particular is actually a really old riff that I found.
That's why.
I swear to you, I gave it to 3 vocalists before, including Yap, like, you know. Yeah. And it was a joke. I sent it to Marcus like after we finished the EP, like, and I sent it to him, and he sent it back, and we were like, no, it's like, this is fucking awesome. Like, we just laughed. Like, it was already written, like, you know, besides the middle 8, but it was like,
yeah. And
he just threw this vocal on it, and we were like, dude, this has got to go on the EP. Like, so the EP is quite, so there's a concept to the EP. It's dedicated to Clown from Slipknot.
Right.
And there's a whole story with the artwork. There was a moment I had with Clown. You know, remember he used to have like the dead bird in the jar, and
right.
You know, it's all about that. And we buried the bird one day, and it's all painted on the album cover. So there's 6 songs on the EP because it's Clown's number. And Clown used to always talk about circles, and there's a funny photo where he's like pointing at the circle, like really like spaced out, like, look, it's a circle. So what I wanted to do was I wanted the first note of the EP. So the first note of the EP and the last note of the EP basically loop each other. So the EP is a full circle. Like if you listen to it on loop, it just loops around as a circle. So and the first and last song are like just hectic. That they're like the arrangements are just bonkers, and then the 4 in the middle are more kind of standard arrangements. And that's just the way it turned out. But my goal was to do the circle and to have 6 songs. So yeah, it's important for me. What I'm trying to say is there's another story that. So Clown got in touch with us a couple of years back, and someone else, the manager at the time, had control of our Facebook, and Clown sent this message, and he was like, yo, hey, it's Yo-Yo, hey, it's me, it's time. I had a dream about Yap. He's like, we got to meet up, it's time. And fucking douchebag manager guy replies on our behalf and goes into like, hey, it's so good to hear from you, and the band are trying to get finance for an album, and and Clown was like, and basically just scared. Like Clown was like, whoa, I'm out. Like, you know, cool, what, you know, yeah. And Clown was so good to 1 Minute Silence. Like he was so good to us. We had such a good time with him. Like, you know, I mean, I saw the end of the world with him. Like we took fucking, like, we went on a trip. Like it was, and you know, and I mean, he reached out to us, and then for him to think, was that 1 Minute Silence? Like, you know, because it was 20 years, and don't forget, like, you know, Slipknot are massive. So imagine how many people are trying to get something from Clown.
Yeah.
And I tried to, I replied, you know, finally, like, you know, got control of the Facebook, replied, and I actually haven't been able to get hold of him since. So part of this EP and the album cover and dedicating it to him is also part of me, you know, letting him know like what he meant to us and what he meant to me. Like, you know, he was one of the most fascinating people and amazing people I ever met, you know, in my life, and all of Slipknot were amazing to us. So, but the fact that Clown reached out to us, and then the manager guy just, and oh man, you know, I'm almost tempted to show you the text because it's like, I'm gonna embarrass the guy.
Well, hopefully Clown watches this. Then that's what we want.
Yeah, well, I am gonna get in touch with it. We're gonna cross paths without a doubt. It's just this is all cooking up. You know, yeah. We know people who know him, and it's gonna happen. It's just I was just. This is the first interview I've actually done for Theftuous, for this new EP. So, you know, I do feel like good things are going to happen. And we want to go live. We just need to get a bit of, you know, buzz, like a decent following online, and we'll do it. You know?
Go from there. mean, because that ties me into my very final question, which is just, so what's in your kind of plan for your next steps? What have you already got in the agenda for release dates for the EP? If you've got a set date already, and then after that, obviously with the guys all spread around, are you thinking this is going to be a live touring entity of a short tour, or what's kind of in your back of your head at the moment on this?
Right now, I need to get someone who knows the industry better than I do, better than the band does, and give us basically give us a plan, because maybe we're just going to put the album out and then they're like, no, don't do that. You need a strategy. What I don't want, though, I don't want to lose momentum. So if no one likes it and no one wants to get involved, which isn't going to happen, and not because we've already got meetings and people have reached out to us, so it will happen. But I just want to keep the momentum going now. We've got 6 tracks. It's all finished. I'd like to put a song out in January. I'd like to put the third single out in March. Maybe the one that Benji's on. It will tie in nicely to them playing Wembley Arena. So I mean that's in place if we want it to. But someone might step in and go, "Don't do that. That's not a good idea." But we want to go live, but you need a following now. But before you had to go out and do gigs to get bigger as a band. Now you've got to get a following online before
it's all online now.
Gigs. So I don't mind, it's fine. But it's we're getting a good response. We're getting a good response, so I trust it.
Excellent. Well, it just leaves me to say a big thank you to you for joining me today. It's been great to actually talk about all this. I hope I didn't make you feel too uncomfortable right at the beginning there.
No, man.
Hopefully it won't be another 20 years before we next catch up about something. But hopefully if you do get a chance to be out on the road, especially in the UK, I'll get a chance to come out and see you live.
We should go for a beer anyway. And
definitely. Sounds like a plan.
Let's do it. I'll get in, after this.
We'll message anyway. Yeah. Brilliant. Anyway, Thank you very much for joining. And for those at home, please do check out Theftuous. We'll put the link for your Facebook, and make sure you follow and subscribe to their channel as well. Thank you very much.